Now, Syria has warned the UN it may retaliate in response to Israel's strike on a Syrian military research centre. The US says the attack was targeting a convoy of vehicles with weapons destined for Hezbollah. Russia has condemned the strike as an unprovoked violation of international law. The situation is certainly raising fears that a civil war could turn into something of a regional conflict. Joining me now is international relations expert Professor Robert Patman. Good morning, Professor Patman.
Good morning, Rachel.
What prompted Israel to do this? Why did they attack?
For about the last week, the Israeli government under Mr. Netanyahu have been worrying about and warning about the consequences of Syrian disintegration. The rebels now control about 75% of Syria. And there are real fears in Israel that chemical weapons, as well as advanced conventional weapons, will fall into the hands of groups like Hezbollah, which operate, an anti-Israeli group, which operate out of Lebanon. And this airstrike was apparently an attack on convoys of trucks which were transferring, we believe, advanced anti-aircraft missile systems, a Russian system actually, the 17AS, to the Hezbollah organisation.
Is Israel right to be worried that, weaponry could be passed on to Hezbollah and Lebanon?
I think that it is a legitimate fear on the part of the Israeli government. One thing that strikes me is that at the moment Israel has complete control of airspace over Lebanon. It believes that should Hezbollah get access to these advanced anti-aircraft systems, that, in the words of one Israeli official, would be a game changer and would seriously interrupt or compromise Israel's ability to control the skies over Lebanon.
Has Israel acted alone, do you think, or does it have the support of its allies?
I think it's certainly true. It's certainly the case that Israel notified Washington in advance. Whether it actually asked for permission is another matter. It may have consulted Washington in advance. America has not commented, nor has the Israeli government, on the attack, the airstrike in Syria, which occurred just outside Damascus. The point is that there haven't been. There's only two countries which have condemned it, or two parties which have condemned it. One is Russia, as you said in your commentary, and the other is Hezbollah. Iran has indicated that any assault on Syria is an assault on itself, has not so far commented. So much of the international community, including much of the Arab world, have not commented, which suggests a tacit support for Israel's actions.
Does that mean we're likely to hear any commentary at all in future, or is everybody a little bit shocked at what's happened and not quite sure how to react? Would you expect Iran to respond? Would you expect
I would expect Iran to say something in the next 24 hours or so. The stakes are very high. If the Assad regime collapses and the rebels take over Syria, which could happen in the not too distant future, the connection between Hezbollah and Iran will be, in terms of the logistical connection, will be severely broken, or at least compromised, because Syria acts as a conduit between Hezbollah and Iran. And so this is both Iran and Hezbollah are desperately concerned about the situation. And one has to say that this spiralling of this new inflammatory element that has occurred in the last 24 hours does pinpoint a much broader international failure to deal with this problem. Three times the UN Security Council tried to pass resolutions to avoid precisely this sort of meltdown scenario, and yet a year later we're now facing that.
Indeed. Professor Robert Patman from Otago University, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.